The following podcast contains spoilers for Polar. Moss Mickelson and I aren't talking at the moment. And I think you know why, Glenn.
I do know why.
You do know why. You have been warned!
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to KFR News Radio. This is your host, Benjamin Button, along with your host, Miguel Me Gusto, with two eyes.
Me gusto.
Double gusto.
Zwei gusto, yeah.
Vai gusto.
How you doing?
I'm doing spectacular, my buddy. I moved into a new room, and it's a little bit more open. Same house, so that's cool. It's just open space. I'm feeling good. It's a little chilly today, but what's hard nipples anyway?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question I wasn't expecting you to ask right now, right off the bat.
Never know.
But yeah, what are they anyway? Anyway, let's jump into what we've seen this past week. I'm going to let you start, Glenn, because you're not going to take as long as me as usual.
I'm definitely going to go the quick and easy round.
Yep.
You and I hooked up, and not in the funny way that people think that I just said that to.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. How dare they, dirty-minded folk.
I wish.
We watched Mank, a David Fincher film. Pretty much about the man who made the script for, the one and only Citizen Kane.
Yeah, definitely.
Herman Mankiewicz.
We did watch that, and it was a spectacular film, in my opinion. Done in the style of old movies like that. Everything down to the sound, where the sound was mono, and not even stereo, it was mono.
Can't forget the cigarette burns, too.
The cigarette burn. Oh, my God.
Yep.
The funny thing is, it was not only was it projected digitally, it was shot digitally as well. And they still added the cigarette burns for nostalgia. And good God, was that nostalgia.
Oh, God. I remember you turning to me and saying, I need to change my pants.
Oh,
the
yeah.
cigarette burns.
Yeah. I mean, I used
burns.
I used to be a projectionist back when we did use 35 millimeter film for projection. And while the system I used didn't need the cigarette burns because we had a platter system, not a reel to reel, it still brought back so many memories. You know, putting the reels together, you got to see the cigarette burns. It was real cool. I miss it, Glenn.
I miss you. But that was a pleasant experience that we had together. Great movie. We had delicious popcorn. You took me out on a nice little date. It was beautiful.
I took you out on a quarantine date.
Yes. We stayed safe all along the way. Even after.
Yeah.
Who knows? And the movie I watched after that was Polar, which we will get into later. Other than that, I've caught up on Mandalorian. I watched the last two episodes that just came out, and a show called Black Clover, which my friends have been telling me to watch, so I've been watching that. But those aren't really as noteworthy of what we did. So, Mike, I know you've got a lot to go through, so hit me with it, Daddy-o. I do got a lot to go through.
I'm going to try not to take as long as usual. So, I've seen 20 movies, including Polar, this past week.
So you're definitely way ahead of schedule now, correct?
A few. I mean, I have 56 movies to go.
Okay.
With 30 days left.
Oh.
So, a little less than 2 a day. I feel like
you were further than that. I don't know.
No, unfortunately. But the first movie I watched last week was one I actually interrupted to record our last week's podcast, called Spell. And it's about this guy whose fiance dies and kind of out of depression and just wanting to get away from reality. He goes to Iceland, which is a trip they wanted to do together, and he's doing it by himself. And then Icelandic people kind of kidnap him because they think he's a reincarnated witch doctor from Iceland.
As they do.
Yeah, as they do. And they make convincing arguments, Glenn. Very convincing.
That's the scariest argument.
Yeah. No, but it's a solid movie. I really enjoyed it. It's a interesting thing. You got to see the lovely landscapes of Iceland, which is always fun. But yeah, I highly suggest that. It's called Spell.
Okay.
Then I watched a new Amazon Prime movie called Uncle Frank with Sophia, what's-her-face from It Chapter 1, and Paul Bettany, where it's this southern girl who moves to New York, which is where her professor uncle lives, and she finds out he's gay, and it's kind of just a journey they take along being Southern and in the 60s or 70s and being gay and kind of different. And yeah, it was really solid. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a well-made movie. It hit the stereotypes of Southerners while also not making it like too mean. Because I feel like a lot of movies similar to that are just like extremely mean. There's one character that was very mean, but the rest were just kind of like, normal. Still thought it was wrong to some extent, but they weren't like trying to kill him. Yeah, it's a solid movie, Uncle Frank. Then I watched another movie called Sometimes, Always, Never with Bill Nighy. Not to be confused with Mank star Bill Nye, the science guy.
The one and only man.
Yeah. Sometimes, Always, Never. I actually interrupted for our Mank date. So I watched first half before our Mank date and then the last half after our Mank date. And it's about this father and son who kind of have a rough relationship because of how seriously they take Scrabble.
Yeah.
Which is a funny concept.
Yeah.
But it's deeper than that. There's a missing son in there somewhere. And it's a really stylistic film that I thought was, it took a seemingly boring concept and made it pretty, like, very unique and different. That's Sometimes, Always, Never. Then I watched Mank, which we talked about. Then I watched a film with Zoe Deutsch called Buffaloed, where she plays this kind of con artist who becomes a debt collector and kind of shows the underbelly of debt collection and how dirty it is, and it's an interesting movie. It's a nice hour and a half. It's nothing too terrible, nothing too great. Yeah, it's a solid movie. Then I watched Karen Gillan's directorial debut. She also stars in it, which is The Party's Just Beginning. It's essentially this woman who is suffering from depression because her friend killed herself. But it's done very well. I really enjoyed it. It's probably one of the better movies I saw this week. And Karen Gillan, she, I think, has a good directing career ahead of her.
Hopefully. Yeah, I did see that she there was some news about her, and I didn't even know she actually made a movie, but I did see like some headlines.
Yeah. I almost saw this in Philly when it was released because I don't think it was the U.S. debut, but it was the Pennsylvania debut, was at the Philadelphia Film Festival, which I almost went to, but then my movie got rejected and I kind of got bitter about it and didn't go to it. So
I don't blame you.
I heard she was there. I don't know if that's true. If she was there, not going was probably the biggest mistake I've ever made. But I don't know if that's true. I Googled it and didn't see any information confirming that. So it could have just been rumors. Then I watched My Spy with Dave Bautista, where he plays a spy and befriends his little neighbor
little girl
lady. Yeah. It's a fine movie. It's a family movie. It's nothing. I think it would have been better if they went PG with it.
Yeah.
But you could tell they were trying to do like dirty jokes, but also keep it family friendly, which doesn't really match up in my opinion.
Yeah. To me, it seemed like another version of the fairy
Tooth Fairy?
fairy tale Tooth Fairy. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah,
fairy tale.
It's similar, or like the pacifier or what have you. It's essentially that. It's not great. It's fine. It's entertaining if you got nothing else to watch. I was on my phone a good portion of it, but it's not a terrible movie. It's just not good either.
Yeah.
Then I watched Between Two Ferns, the movie. It's Between Two Ferns,
There's
just
a movie?
in feature length. Yeah. There's a movie. It's like a feature length version, and they go across the country, and it's funny. It's got a lot of funny moments, but didn't need a movie.
Yeah.
Then I watched a Korean movie that's on Netflix called The Call, where these two women are connected via an old phone in a house by I think it's like 25 years or something, and one of them turns out to be a serial killer. And it happens to be the one in the past, so she kind of fucks shit up, and it's very interesting. Yeah. It's really I really enjoyed it. It's very interesting. Called The Call. Then I watched Polar, which was my 300th movie on the year. We'll get to that in a minute. But 300 movies. But then I watched 10 more movies. I watched Wild Rose, which has Jessie Buckley from I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It's this Scottish woman who is kind of like a fuck up, and she's trying to become a country star, and it's very entertaining and well acted, and it's a great story all around. Highly suggest that. Then I watched A Night to Remember, which is the superior Titanic movie. You hear that, James Cameron? No, legitimately, like it's Titanic without the bullshit 2.5 hours before things actually happen.
Before Titanic happens.
But it still has all the emotional beats that Titanic had. So it's an abridged Titanic without the bullshit story that never happened. This is based on more fact than James Cameron's Titanic.
Yeah.
And I think James Cameron's Titanic is fine. I didn't start hating him until Avatar. But I do think James Cameron's Titanic, other than special effects, is greatly what's the word? Overappreciated, overrated. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, A Night to Remember. It's really good. Then I watched Jingle Jangle, which is a Christmas movie on Netflix, which, to my surprise, was not about a black Santa Claus, but about a black toy maker. I wish it was a black Santa Claus. I think that would have been cool. But Forrest Whitaker is still really cool in it. And he might as well be Santa Claus. It's a Christmas movie where they don't even mention Santa Claus.
Oh, so that's different.
But he's just not Santa Claus in it. It's really good. It's a musical, full disclosure.
Yeah.
But it's a very good musical. The tunes are very they're popping.
Yeah, I've seen some friends post about that on Facebook and all that, saying they've been watching it.
Yeah, it's good. I do suggest it. It puts you in the holiday spirit. And Keegan-Michael Key plays a bad guy, which was unexpected because seems like the nicest person in the world.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice to see him have some range. So yeah, Jingle Jangle. Then I watched a movie which is based on a true story, which I've been like thinking about making into a movie. The Lighthouse is slightly based on this story, but this one is fully based on it. It's about three
some mermaids, huh?
No, mermaids are not involved. But it's called The Vanishing.
Okay.
It's based on the true story of 3 Scottish lighthouse keepers who go missing on their shift on their island with no trace. There's no sign of a struggle. There's no nothing. They just all disappeared. And it's not like a small lighthouse island where, they could easily be swept away. Like, they're on a cliff and somehow all just disappeared. No one knows how it happened even to this day. But this kind of puts a very interesting spin on it. I rather enjoyed it. Got Gerard Butler in it. It's very solid. It's not as out there as The Lighthouse, but it's based on the same story.
It's very hard to be out there like The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse is extremely loosely based on the story, whereas this is like they actually use the names and everything.
Yeah.
So I do suggest that. That's on Amazon Prime. It's called The Vanishing. Then I watched Fred Durst's movie, The Fanatic, with John Travolta.
That's a thing?
Yeah, Fred Durst directed a movie with John Travolta. It's a horror movie about a guy a mentally challenged guy who stalks his favorite celebrity, and things turn violent. And
I think I've seen a scene or two of this movie.
Yeah, it's terrible. John Travolta is really good, but he overacts, which I'm sure Fred Durst didn't help him at all. Lot. Yeah, he's kind of like a Nick Cage type, but maybe not as crazy as Nick Cage, but still. But the moments that are believable are very believable. He kind of reminds me, in some way, of someone you and I know personally, who I won't name. But just in the mannerisms, not in the stalking part, obviously, but the mannerisms. He seems like someone we know personally. And it was just kind of empty. Like, it was mean-hearted. It was there was no heart to it. There's no humanity to it. In the end, it had the wrong bad guy the whole time, and it didn't make sense. Like, I don't want to get into it because I don't want to ruin it for people who actually want to watch it. But I'll talk to you later about it.
Yeah.
You'll enjoy it just the same, even if you know what's going to happen.
Okay.
Then I watched Bill and Ted Face the Music, which is the third installment of the Bill and Ted series. Really funny. Really enjoyed that.
Did they release that?
Yeah, they released it. It's on. I think you have to rent it. I paid $4 to rent it. Yeah. But it's really good. I really enjoyed it. You know, as far as a very long-awaited sequel, it's great. Then I watched a movie today called Rust Creek. It's like a small little indie movie. This girl gets lost in the Virginia woods. Mm-hmm. And these two guys who think she saw them burying a dead body, like, kind of hunt her down. Or I don't know if it's a dead body, but they're burying something. They don't ever, they just say burying that thing. They never specify what it is, but they hint that it's a dead body. And she kind of runs through the woods trying to survive. It's a solid movie. Nothing great, nothing terrible. Mm-hmm. Then I watched a documentary called A Grand Night In, The Story of Aardman, which is the studio that does Wallace and Gromit. It's a little documentary on that. It is technically feature length, even though it's only like an hour long. I counted it because that is technically feature length. Yeah. And yeah, but if you love Aardman, if you love Wallace and Gromit, you'll probably enjoy that, because I did. Then I watched Ghosts of War, which is a horror movie that takes place in World War II, and I was enjoying it pretty well, and then it just got over convoluted and then had a twist, which was just not a good twist, and I kind of wish it was just a straightforward, simple plot. They tried to overcomplicate it too much, because I really enjoyed like the first 45 minutes to an hour, and then it just goes completely bonkers. Yeah. And does not do well with the bonkers. And then the last movie I watched is Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, which is a Charlie Brown feature from 1977. It's Charlie Brown. If you like Charlie Brown, you're going to like it. Yeah,
almost everybody loves Charlie Brown.
But I know that doesn't seem like much, but that's all I watched for this week. So
it's only 20 movies. Yeah.
I promise starting January, I won't have as many movies to go through. I'm just so close to hitting a movie a year that I'm forcing them to go hard. I mean, you can even look at this list and just be like, oh yeah, he's just putting something on to put something on. Yeah. Like the Charlie Brown one, it was sad. I love Charlie Brown, but like I wasn't dying to watch Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so I don't believe we have any news today. Is that correct?
I actually do.
Oh, because I don't, but you do. So.
And it was about something that I do enjoy, and that I what's the word for it? It's a something that I like that people don't like. What's the word for it? So I don't
guilty pleasure.
Thank you. It's a guilty pleasure of mine here. So Van Helsing Universal Monster movie coming from Overlord director.
Honestly, if anyone is going to be able to revive like the Universal Monster movie, it's going to be that guy.
Yeah. I enjoyed Overlord for the most part. There was some parts where I just didn't care for it, but I mean, I don't know what the reboot's gonna look like. I loved the original, not the original Van Helsing, but the Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman in it. Yeah, and so like that was like one of my favorite movies growing up, and the werewolves in that movie are utterly fantastic.
I haven't seen it since it was in theaters. I think it warrants a rewatch, but that's gonna have to come next year when I don't have to force 56 movies into 30 days.
I would love to sit there and watch that movie with you, because I feel like a lot of people hate that movie. I love it, but they're rebooting the whole thing. I don't even think Hugh Jackman or anybody's going to be in it. I think it's just going to be a fresh start with the Overlord director.
Cool.
Which would be pretty awesome.
Yeah. I love the Universal.
James Wan is also producing, I think.
Oh, nice. I love the Universal monster movies. So I've been kind of bummed that they've been kind of shitting the bed with all of their revivals of it, because honestly, the stories are there. They tried to modernize them too much.
I hope they take their time with them. It's something that is a weird comparison, but like DC was doing, they were trying to rush too much stuff out. I hope they take their time with the stories.
Yeah, they tried to rush too much. They tried to modernize it too much. They tried to, I mean, like, the Mummy, Dracula, Young Frankenstein, or not Young Frankenstein, Frankenstein with Daniel Radcliffe and James McAvoy,
but also the Young Frankenstein.
and Young Frankenstein. They are all great stories that we know can be done well. And yes, they're not needed because we already have those movies. But if you want to create a universe where Van Helsing makes sense, which is, in my opinion, the whole point to do that, it's kind of like building up to Thanos in a way.
Yeah.
Only Van Helsing may or may not be the good guy. You gotta be careful with it. You can't just rush it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I really have. I think there might have actually been a sliver of something else that I can't remember, but oh well.
Yeah.
Nothing's really happening. Corona's still a thing. We're still hanging on by threads. But yeah, I guess we can move on to the movie Polar.
So yeah, let's get into Polar.
I like it here. It makes me peaceful.
Me too.
You're not from around here, are you?
No, I'm retired.
What was your job?
I was in the funeral business.
As you know, we manage the investments of our employees. If a former agent dies after retirement, their $8 million goes back to the company.
This is a bad idea.
And you're gonna have to correct me on all the names again because I am ignorant.
Well, just the one guy.
Giannis?
Jonas.
Damn it!
Jonas Åkerlund. I probably mispronounced that a little bit, but it's closer than what you said.
Polar. A retiring assassin suddenly finds himself on the receiving end of a hit, contracted by none other than his own employer, seeking to cash in on the pensions of aging employees.
Look at you.
I know. I almost bit my lip like three times. I almost like created a stutter, and then here we are. Janos.
Jonas. Jonas. It's like Jonas, but with a yo. Jonas.
Janas.
Oh my God.
Directed by Jonas Åkerlund. Written by Jason Rothwell, screenplay by Victor Santos of the Dark Horse graphic novel Polar. Stars Mads Mikkelsen, Vanessa Hudgens, Catherine Winnick. Let's see, Faye
Matt
Wren.
Lucas.
What is it?
Matt Lucas.
Matt
Faye
Lucas. Rubio Fee.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people in here.
And with cameos by Richard Dreyfuss and Johnny Knoxville.
Oh, yeah, Johnny Knoxville. That was a mind blow.
Yeah.
Right from
I
the
was like,
beginning.
is that Johnny Knoxville? And
It's like
it was Johnny Knoxville.
there's like no information that he was ever going to be in this movie, and then bada bing, bada boom, there he is in the first 2 minutes.
Yep.
And so yeah, this was my pick for this week. I mainly picked this to go with the winter flow of December, and also Mads Mikkelsen is a sexy son bitch who's talented beyond every describable imagination. So let's get into Polar, shall we?
Let's get into it. So, right off the bat, it honestly, while it developed the character, and I'm kind of glad, even though she wasn't more, the one character who they introduced, which you thought was just some like woman with Johnny Knoxville's character. Her name's Cindy, played by Rubio Fee. I thought she was just going to die in that first scene.
Yeah, so did
And when
I.
that happened, I was just like, this poor actress.
Yeah.
She's just here to
Just
be
here to blow Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah, hot piece of ass, and then she's gonna die. And it turns out she's just there the whole movie to be a hot piece of ass and then eventually die. But it wasn't just that first scene. And that kind of, if I'm honest, turned me off from the rest of the film. Not in like a I wasn't willing to like wait, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. It felt gratuitous and unnecessary and just
There was a lot of that in the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
That it bum rushes you with a lot. A bunch of characters in this weird like crank style, weird just introducing a bunch of characters with sliding titles and
it was very Gus
scenes.
Or Guy Ritchie.
That's the guy I'm looking for.
Yeah, Guy Ritchie influenced.
Yeah, and so it's throwing all these names of this like hit team of like 5 people. They call it the A team, and I guess this boss calls it the A team. And it starts out with Johnny Knoxville, he's a retired hitman, and he sniffs some cocaine, and he's living his life in a retired, and they fucking murder him. Like it seems like it's like an like a rival hit team. They come get him, and so like they're introducing all these names, they're introducing this kind of world building thing, all in the first like 10 minutes that it's throwing at you, and it's a lot. And it's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's unnecessary. Like,
yeah.
You don't need to know these characters' names to know who they are, because
or at least with
like,
all the flashiness, you didn't really
exactly. And
you could
like,
have slowly done it, and it would have made a hell of a difference.
Yeah, but like I didn't remember anyone's name.
No, absolutely
at all. Like I even forgot Mads Mikkelsen's name, and it's just the characters are strong. Whenever you have your characters and you do that, like other than Guy Ritchie, because he was kind of one of the first to do it, at least in the modern era.
He pretty much defined that style.
Yeah, but like other than him, it's just like trust your characters. Like,
yeah,
I don't need to know their names if they're good characters. You're not assuming they're good characters.
Well, and that's what kind of makes it worse is that you should be able to trust your characters, but then the movie doesn't really give you. So it made all these people seem important, but they didn't feel important in any slight of way.
Yeah.
They were just like the second-hand thing that was happening.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, like they didn't really come up again until probably like halfway through. And like I remembered who they were, but it also just I didn't care, especially because like I don't know. This is the kind of movie where you know exactly what's going to happen. Like you know that there's no danger for Mads Mikkelsen's character. He's just a complete badass. The fact that he has an eye patch on the poster, but not an eye patch until like 30 minutes left in the movie.
30 minutes left.
I just knew that, you know, there's no suspense at all. That's not to say that the sequences weren't impressive, because some of the fighting sequences were very impressive. Oh, yeah. But it just kind of, I don't know, it felt like it was doing a caricature of another movie in a way.
Yeah. There was a lot of good in this movie. There was a lot of ingredients in this movie that would have made for a nice dish. I don't mean to bring food in. I'm just a little hungry. But there's enough ingredients in this movie, mainly on Mads Mikkelsen's part. He was fantastic in this movie. You can't really hate him.
Yeah.
And until you hate him 17 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, no. It's honestly like I didn't hate him. I just hated how that situation was handled.
Yeah.
For those of you who've seen the film, and if you haven't seen the film and you're listening anyway, 17 minutes in the movie, he has like a PTSD dream, which causes him to wake up and just shoot at nothing except for there's something in the way, and it's his little French bulldog that he literally got that day. And
Rusty. Rest in peace,
little
Rusty.
And it's played as a joke. Like, that's the thing that got me, is that like it felt like we were supposed to laugh at it, but it's just, for not only is it a man suffering from PTSD, it's also a dog, which, you know, dog deaths are never funny.
No, they're never funny.
I'm more likely to laugh at a human death than I am a dog death.
Yeah, they gave this dog a good chunk of screen time when he like first met him. He was like, he like had this cute face. He was turning his head and everything, and then he has this PTS dream is what I was trying to say there. Bada ting, and then kind of like in the dream, he had like a dog barks, and it's like a German Shepherd or some shit, and he kind of just wakes up and shoots like what he thinks is the dog, but it's just this little French bulldog, Rusty. And as soon as that happened, I started texting Mike. I'm like, well, I know you didn't like this movie 17 minutes in.
And like I knew it wasn't Mads Mikkelsen. I knew it was more of the writer and the director. If it wasn't played as a comedic beat, I probably would have forgiven it a little bit more. But it was just the way it was edited. I could tell that they wanted us to laugh at that point.
And it was a really cool interaction with the. He's like, he walked up to this dog. It was up for adoption just on the street, and he asked what I guess the owner at the time was like, what's his name? And she's like, oh well, it doesn't have a name. Pay $50 and you can name it whatever you want. He's like, I like dogs with human names, and he's like, I like Rusty. And she's like, that's not really a human name. He's like, that's a human name.
I know people named Rusty. So
Yeah, I've met one dude named Rusty, but
Yeah.
it was just a really funny thing. She's like, "Well, do you want him?" He's like, "I don't need a dog." 2 seconds later, he gets the dog.
Yeah, and like I think it would have been better had the dog lived longer. They built this
Yeah.
relationship, and then he actually mourns for the dog instead of just being like, "Well, I guess I'll go get fish now."
Yeah.
And I feel like you could have shown the PTSD being a danger to the dog without killing the dog.
It would have been a different experience if like it was a natural thing, like a like I don't know, he lives in Montana, so like I don't know what's in Montana, but any predator there, like a bobcat or some shit, getting the dog, since it's a small dog, so like that would have made a hell of a difference there.
Yeah, definitely. The interaction with the dog kind of brings up one of my favorite parts of the character. Is he always told people he quit things or didn't need things, and then the very next shot would be him doing the thing he said he quit or doesn't need. Like in the beginning, he says, "Oh, I quit smoking." The very next shot, he's smoking. I quit
Same with the
drinking. The
drinking.
very next shot, he's drinking. I don't need a dog. The very next shot, he's carrying the dog home. And it's clever in that sense, but really, I just feel like the gratuitous nature of the one overtly sexual character, Cindy, and this one comedic beat, which was not funny at all. I think that really hurt it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And going back to the overtly sexual nature, like Matt Lucas's character Blute is trying to be sexual, and it's not a knock on Matt Lucas, but he's a very soft and cuddly character.
Yeah.
In general, and just to see him trying to be this big bad, I don't know if we're supposed to fear him or just realize that he was this guy who was acting all tough who wasn't tough, which became a thing later, but it didn't really work or pay out until like the last 10-15 minutes. And that's kind of a theme throughout, is that nothing really adds up to anything.
And like a big thing was this A team for me, like at least problem with it was that they hyped up this team, and I mean, Mads Mikkelsen is obviously the John Wick of this movie.
Yeah.
That's what they've hyped up the whole time, and like he's got this 5-people team, and he just wipes them out. So like they hyped him out this whole movie just to be literally nothing, almost like
that sequence was
5-minute
really
scene.
cool though.
Yeah, the sequence was awesome
Again,
for sure.
leads up with a unnecessarily long sex scene, which like again, like I have no problem with sex in movies, but it's like if it's not needed or unnecessary, it's just gratuitous. It's just,
it was like a good. I don't know how long it actually was, but like it felt like 5 minutes, like a 5-minute sex
It
scene.
felt like it was probably like 2 minutes, but still, like that kind of scene only needs to be like 30-45 seconds tops, and that's on the long side. Like there is no nuance to this movie, and I know it's a comic book movie, but with things like that, like a few panels of a sex scene in a comic book is completely different from a 2-minute sex scene.
Yeah,
And it's just, it makes you momentarily dislike the character, and of course Mads Mikkelsen brings you back, and it's only because it's not necessary. It's not because it's not well shot or what have you. It's just it stops the plot for something that is obviously only there to get views. Which that's the only problem I have with that, is that it's kind of like when you are watching a show and then there's product placement in it, and it's just product placement in the middle of the center of the shot, and it's so distracting, it takes you away from what's going on. And it's exactly the same thing, just the product shot is just boobs and humping, and that's it's just, it detracts is what it ultimately comes down to. It's not needed, and it only hurts the film.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apart from, this was a pretty decent movie. I feel like we're knocking it a little bit, but
I enjoyed it for the most part.
The plot was there. I feel like they could have done a little bit better on the world building.
Yeah.
Mads Mikkelsen's fantastic. He's always good. He was in terrific shape in this movie too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But there's 2 other people that I actually really did like, and that was Vanessa Hudgens. and her character.
She was way better than I've ever seen her.
Yeah.
People
I
were
didn't
saying,
even know it was her at first.
Yeah. I think she's in Spring Breakers, right? She's one of the.
Yeah, I believe so.
People were singing her praises in Spring Breakers, and you know how both Glenn and I feel about that movie. But she is, for a movie that doesn't really deserve that kind of performance, she's great in this. And that brings us to the end of the film. Obviously, this won't be the last thing we talk about, but when you find out that the flashbacks he's been having have been when he killed her entire family, and that the money he's been donating is to her, it kind of brings the whole thing full circle and creates this beautiful moment of tension where he puts his life in her hands after just saving her. He doesn't expect any thanks or anything because he knows that he killed her entire family. And just lets Vanessa Hudgens just show off her skills, which she hasn't been able to in High School Musical or anything else. And it really, I wish the whole movie was that tone. I know that wouldn't be with the comic book, but that's just more my scene.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's how I feel too. Like a lot of the flashiness of this movie and a lot of the characters just didn't matter. And as when it came down to it, whenever you were just hanging out with Mats Mikkelsen or Vanessa Hudgens or even the other person that I was going to say was the chick who played Vivian, Catherine Winnick. She was great in the movie too. I liked her character a lot.
Her whole character design was just stunning. She commanded the scene, and by design, obviously, she was wearing red in a sea of black. And all of that. But yeah, I agree with that.
So whenever you were around those three interactions between those three characters, it felt good. Those tones were good. Whenever you had all the other crap going on in the background, that's kind of what drowned it in this movie. And they, like you were saying with the moments at the end with Vanessa Hudgens and Mads Mikkelsen, it's this great ending of what was a pretty decent film. And it definitely made it that much better for me, at least. And they kind of go for a sequel here. They kind of go for that. I don't know how I felt about that, but I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately the nature of the beast. Anytime something's based on something, they're like, oh, we got to milk this for all it's worth. Leave it open in case we can do that.
It kind of left it open for a Leon the Professional type film for what would be the next one.
Yeah.
Instead of Natalie Portman, it's Vanessa Hudgens. And,
and instead of a creepy romantic relationship, which could have been a lot creepier if the writer got his way. That's not to say I don't like Leon the Professional, but that is just a thing people talk about. It's as close to a creepy relationship as I'm willing to get and still enjoy something. But yeah, I mean, I don't have too much else to say. It's a solid movie. I was entertained, but there's just a lot wrong with it, in my opinion. The one scene I fucking loved is the scene where he goes to teach the kids about the world, and it just becomes like this assassination demonstration.
Yeah, he's demonstrating how to use this knife that he brought to show and tell.
Yeah.
And then he's talking about dead bodies. Like, this is what her 3-week-old body looks like when it's been rotting in the sun. And the teacher's really just in the background, just like, ugh.
Yeah. It's completely out of left field with that scene, but I did enjoy it, even though it was not necessary in the least.
Yeah, it was a good comedic moment.
Yeah. Way funnier than the dog being killed.
Yeah. And I mean, we already talked about it a little bit, but the action scenes were pretty stellar considering. Like the one mansion fight scene after the interrogation. That was a fantastic fight scene. Yeah. But it leads to my mind going, why do security guards with guns get close to shoot people? That always blows my mind.
Well, that kind of comes to the whole John Wick connection you made. Is everyone trying to implement the gung fu that was John Wick made famous, which only works in John Wick because he's hiding and pops out on
Yeah,
people.
he can get to that point.
Yeah, it's
where
not like
he gets
they're in a
there.
very long hallway.
Yeah, they're in this
and-
long corridor, and they're like, I gotta get close to shoot this man
And
now.
I need to make sure I have absolutely no cover
Yeah.
in the least.
It's there's 20 dead bodies around me. I need to get close to this man.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
he's using dead bodies while I'm shooting at him. I still need to get closer to this man.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
so
man.
funny. But anyway, let's move on, shall we?
Yeah. So let's move on to the judgment. Glenn, this was your pick, so that means you go first in deciding whether or not this is a shelf boy.
All right. I definitely enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I would. I never thought that I would want. I did a little fan casting after this, and I never thought I'd want to see Mats Mikkelsen as Big Boss from Metal Gear Solid, but now I do because of the eye patch. Thank God, give me it. But it had a lot of moments where it was really good, but its overall flashiness and characters that were just unneeded kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Like a good portion. It could have been like maybe 20 minutes less if they cut a good chunk of that stuff out. And just like stuck with the story of Duncan, Camille, and the interactions with Vivian and stuff. But if it was 20 minutes, I probably would have been like, yeah, hell yeah, and cut all the flashiness. But for me, it's going to be a no.
I agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. It's a fun movie. There's plenty of movies like it that are a lot better. I don't want to. I wouldn't say that I wasted my time watching it, but
No.
I think the faults outweigh the good qualities.
Yeah.
If there is a sequel, I will watch it, but it. I'm not. I won't be sad if there is no sequel.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if this story continues, but there's enough there where it is. Interesting. Just
As long
not a
as they
shelf
give
boy.
me more Mats Mikkelsen.
More Mats Mikkelsen. I'll see Mats Mikkelsen in anything, really.
Absolute.
But that means that Polar does not become a shelf boy with the likes of Apostle and Handmaiden. And that brings us to our plugs. Glenn, you go first again because that's just how this works.
All right, so, it's December now, right?
Is it?
It's got me in the mood for things, It's got me...
I'm only laughing because I know what it is.
You know the
but-
context. I'm trying to figure out how to segue this because I couldn't find a plug, and then this came along, and I'm like, I'm fucking doing it. So here's my segue. No Nut November's over, baby.
Jesus Christ. Oh,
So my boy, the Loop Daddy himself, Mark Rubier, he was live on Twitch the other day and was just improvising a bunch of random stuff, trying to work on his craft of making these great loops and his funky hip-hoppy beats. And he basically just came up with a song. It's got no title, but he talks about boobs a lot, and it's kind of a work of beauty because even I showed it to you and you were like, I want to be this guy's neighbor. And just know, if you're insensitive to boobs, just don't watch this. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But for me, if you go on Twitter to Mark Rebillet, it's Rebillet, Mark Rebillet. He's got a tweet called Y'all Up, and it's a 2-minute clip of him just singing this boob song. It's fantastic.
Where can I begin to shape? Yo, I see them through the shirt. I see them through the shirt. I see them picking through, baby. Yo, I need a squirt. I need to get a look and a taste and a feel and a suck. I need your tits in my mouth and we need to fuck.
So yeah, that's my...
that's about it. Well, funnily enough, that kind of coincides with mine a little bit. So this is a short film based on a Craigslist ad. Stay with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's funny. It's sexy. Stay with me.
No, I'm here. I'm
It
full.
brings a whole new meaning to a tight little hole. Stay with me, Glenn. And it brings a whole new meaning into what's in the box.
Oh.
If I'm honest, I only picked this movie because of the title.
Yeah.
And it is a short film on YouTube, on the YouTube channel Dust, called Come Fuck My Robot.
Yo, Brian, what's going on, dude? I whale hunted a Orlando at Cabo last week. You know, the brothers all throw in $5 and whoever bangs out the fattest chick wins the pot. I took her out to the ocean to raw dog it, but we nearly drowned. So I took her back to the porta potty while the other brothers cheered me on. One of the brothers later that day started making out with her, but that chick was blackout. I asked him how I tasted, and he emptied his stomach onto the entire dance floor. Unfortunately, none of the Rushies got to contribute to the sperm bank, but fuck it. We all had a good time. You probably don't understand that just yet, do you, Virgin?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna fuck a robot.
Wait, what?
What a selection of plugs we have today.
You can tell we really picked this at the last minute. But anyway, this is not as dirty as the title would have it seem.
Yeah.
Yes, what the title suggests is talked about, but it is essentially about this virgin who goes to this guy's house who he met on Craigslist to fuck a robot, and he may or may not. I'm not going to get into it too much, but it's kind of charming in a way. But I legitimately only picked it because of the title, and I wanted to set it up that way.
Perfect.
So those are our plugs. And before you watch them, just know that we're deeply, deeply sorry.
Except for me. I am not.
You are a little bit.
I'm terribly sorry.
But those are our plugs for this week. That brings us to our selection for next week. It is Netflix Roulette Week, which means that we're going to spin the wheel 3 times and pick the best of the 3. Hopefully, well, I don't really care either way, but the past 3 Netflix Roulette selections have all been foreign films, so I'm curious to see if we're going to have that pattern continue. So without any further ado, I'm going to spin the wheel. The Exception with Christopher Plummer, I can tell you that much. It is with...
My dumbass almost just said it is on Netflix.
Yeah, Jai Courtney, Lily James, Christopher Plummer, directed by David Laveau. It is about a German soldier tries to determine if the Dutch resistance has planted a spy to infiltrate the home of Kaiser Wilhelm in Holland during the onset of World War II, but falls for a young Jewish Dutch woman during his investigation. It's got 6.8 on IMDb and a 60% Metascore. So we'll see if that is the one we pick. That is The Exception. Spin number 2. The Vast of Night, which according to this is 2020. It came out last year technically, but also came
January 2019 was its initial.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to count that.
That counts for me. 2019.
Okay.
And January.
I have seen this, but I would not mind watching it again. It is directed by Andrew Patterson, starring Sierra McCormick and Jake Horowitz. It is about one night in New Mexico in the late 1950s. A switchboard operator and radio DJ discover a strange audio frequency which could change the future forever. That is The Vast of Night. 6.7 on IMDb and 84 Metascore.
Is this on Netflix?
I mean, according to this, it is.
It says it's an Amazon original.
It is an Amazon original, but let me see if it is on Netflix.
Yeah, I'm gonna check.
Oh, it takes you to Amazon. Apparently, they do more than just Netflix now. They do Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and Prime.
I'm not seeing it on there.
Yeah, it's definitely on Amazon Prime. Do we want to exclude that then?
I mean,
since I don't know how to change it, so it only picks Netflix movies.
I mean, we could just call it streaming roulette at a certain point.
Streaming roulette is the new name of this thing. So, sorry, Netflix roulette, you done fucked up, and now it's streaming roulette. So, Vast of Night is the second choice, and that brings us to our third spin of the wheel of streaming roulette. Here we go. Killing Them Softly.
Oh, is this the Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt, yep.
I actually do want to rewatch this movie pretty badly. Because I remember watching this in theaters.
Yeah. So, directed by Andrew Dominic, and it's starring Brad Pitt, Ray Liotta, Richard Jenkins, and James Gandolfini, and Ben Mendelsohn. It is about Jackie Cogan is an enforcer hired to restore order after 3 dumb guys rob a mob-protected card game, causing the local criminal economy to collapse. It's got a 6.2 on IMDb and a 64 Metacritic score, and that is Killing Them Softly. Let's see where we can watch that. That is on Netflix. So those are our 3 spins: The Exception, The Vast of Night, and Killing Them Softly.
You didn't watch The Exception, right?
The Exception is the only one I have not seen.
Same for me. I do want to rewatch Killing Them Softly, but I have watched it.
If I remember, I hated Killing Them Softly. I mean, I'm open to rewatching it, but
like I am not against watching this on my own. I was always going to.
Yeah,
so that's fine. With
and
me.
The Vast of Night, I have already watched 3 times this year.
Jesus,
I love that movie, dude. I'm gonna make you watch it one day.
We already know what that's gonna be, so I think it rules out.
Well, you might not like it. It might not be a shelf boy if you don't like it. But
that's true.
But yes,
I think that makes this is kind of the only exception.
The Exception is the only exception. So yes, let me just double check now that we got that wild card to make sure that it is on Netflix. Yep, it is on Netflix. So that is The Exception on Netflix with Christopher Plummer, Jai Courtney, Lily James.
The Kaiser remains of great symbolic importance to the German people.
You'll address him as sir, and you will speak only when spoken to, and all discussion of politics is forbidden.
You are to take immediate command of his military guard.
British Secret Service have an agent in the area. Could be a kidnap attempt, most likely an assassination. If anything happens to him, Captain, you'll be shot.
Captain, there's a British spy after me.
You'll be quite safe, Your Highness.
My name is Stefan. I was wondering what yours was.
Mika, dear. Take your clothes off.
The female staff are not to be interfered with.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, you can check out our website, KeystoneFilmReview.com. On Instagram, Keystone_Film_Review. On Twitter, Keystone_Film. On Facebook, Keystone Film Review. YouTube, Keystone Film Review. And on Letterboxd, I am Mike, KFR.
And I'm Glenn, KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we watch Christopher Plummer in yet another Nazi movie. I'm not saying that as a jab, but he is in a lot of Nazi movies. Sometimes as a Nazi, sometimes not as a Nazi. Sometimes as a Nazi who thinks he's not a Nazi, but he is a Nazi. It's a whole thing.
A big thing.
Yeah. Christopher Plummer, I love you. Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.